What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's Reviewed. Today we're going to be taking a look at Bonbon Box from George Iglesias and Twister Magic. But before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And please ring the bell.
And while we're at it, let's take a quick word from our sponsor here. Edia Studios presents Anime Angel Playing Cards, printed by Legends Playing Card Company and exclusively available on Kickstarter now. Enter the world of an all-new anime series, Dear Humanity. So Steve, I gotta say, this gimmick is absolutely awesome. George Iglesias is at it again with another twist on an amazing classic gimmick. For any of you who know Twister Magic, they love to work with organic props, and I think this one really hits the mark with that, even more so than some of the stuff we've seen with them recently. Basically, the idea behind this is you show an empty box of chocolates to your spectator. Whether they complain, they make a big deal out of it, however you play it, show them an empty box, and magically, before their eyes, close the box, open it back up, and there are a full tray of your favorite chocolate, whatever it may be. One of the cool things about this is actually it comes in two different variations. There is a knockoff Ferrero Rocher version, we'll call it, and then a traditional bonbon style box, which I think is really cool depending on what you really like. I mean, at the end of the day, there's chocolate in here, so if you're a magician who appreciates chocolate, get whatever chocolate you're going to want to eat more of. But really cool idea that allows you to just have a little fun with a organic style gimmick here.
Yeah, and coming from George Iglesias, which is one of our favorite people to watch, you know, I can't say it enough. I love watching him.
Guy's got some crazy energy, and it comes through the screen amazingly. I always do love his tutorials as well. All things considered, This is actually a really interesting gimmick. Comes in at a $45 price point, which really isn't too bad. It's available currently at any Murphy's Magic retailer. One of the nice things about it, though, is it's super simple. Honestly, I think the entire tutorial was something like 24 minutes long, and I think that was actually overly generous. I think it could have been a 12-minute video and covered everything that was there. One of the things that stood out to me was that they actually duplicated all of the tutorial aspects for both the Ferrero Rocher and the Bonbon Box. It's literally the same gimmick no matter which one you get. It's just a visual change there. So for them to have the duplication side of it, it probably extended the length a bit more than it needed to. But with that in mind, it just reinforced what they were teaching, which I thought really was very beginner friendly, very visual, and really made to be quick and easy to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, super simple. You know, and obviously George is someone who is enjoyable to watch and very thorough in all his videos. So, you know, it was easy to follow along. And like you said, going over each one twice kind of burned it into your skull, you know, even though it's not that difficult to understand.
You know, I was really surprised at how simple it was. I think, you know, there's a lot of discussion around the idea that this is based off of a classic gimmick, which I think is really cool. But all things considered, like, this is something that you could open the box, watch that 24-minute video, maybe only scrub through 5 minutes of that video, turn around and perform this. The one thing that's going to catch you out of the box is you probably don't have a ton of Ferrero Rocher or bonbons handy, so you're a little bit SOL there. But with that in mind, I really did like the style of the tutorial with it. George's approach was to show you kind of a little bit of a performance of it, go into what's actually contained in the box and walk through the logistics of it, and then talk about performance tips. There was actually never a really tutorial-driven performance where he gave patter, which I thought was interesting because a lot of times he's very heavy on the patter in his tutorials, and it's very specific. With this one, it was a little more freeform, and I think it actually flowed better because this is a simple routine where you could easily make up your own kind of thing with it. You don't even necessarily need words for this to be visually appealing, and I thought that was really cool. Obviously, you want to have some patter to draw them in and talk about it and get people amped. It's also an interesting kind of emotional roller coaster with this one where you almost like get someone really excited, like who doesn't love chocolate, and then you're like, oh, just kidding, no chocolate, and you're on the dip there, and then you're coming back up with, okay, just kidding, a little bit of magic, and here's your chocolate.
Yeah, I think, you know, the one thing that I would have liked to have seen him talk on is the auditory kind of issue that goes along with this. And
there is an auditory aspect for sure, which was not touched on.
Yeah, I wish he touched on that. You know, obviously, you know, it's something that you can create on your own to try to figure out how to get around that. You know, but there definitely is that aspect that you need to think about.
And I think it's noticeable in the video. It's almost like jarringly loud, to the point that I was like, okay, I don't know if it's just being amplified because of the microphone, or if it's something to actually be cognizant of in personal performance as well. And then playing with the gimmick, you realize that it is in fact that loud. And it's probably loud enough that it wouldn't just be covered up by normal speech. So that's a little bit of like the tough part about it there. Like, you need to really distract someone with something else to get the noise to not be noticeable. And I don't know if there would be a way to soften that at all with modifying the gimmick. But the one thing I did like about this gimmick that kind of ties into that is, for the most part, it's fully inspectable. There's parts of it where on close scrutiny, there, you know, it could be given away, but all things considered, you know, people were asking in some of the forums and everywhere whether or not you could take a look at the inside of the box. You can take a look at the inside of the box. It's actually touched on in the video how much you can kind of go about doing that, but it also talks about how you don't really need to do that as part of the performance. So if someone is really, really scrutinizing it, you can hold it up and show them both parts of the box. It all comes off very organic and very clean, which I do like. But if you were to modify the gimmick in order to potentially alleviate that auditory issue, you may actually prevent the inspection aspect of this, depending on what you use to modify it. So that is something to consider there, that I think, you know, that little bit of a tweak, maybe they come out with a V2 in the future with a little bit of a less loud auditory noise. But I think that is one thing that really stood out to me. And I think the other thing, you know, we had talked about with this, Steve, was the Ferrero Rocher, the gold box version. Obviously, for copyright purposes, they can't say Ferrero Rocher on this, but instead they say Magic Rocher. And to me, that kind of puts a spectator in a mindset, if they see that, of like, something's funky about the box. And obviously, you know, someone's going to think that no matter what, but you don't want to kind of set that from the jump. And to me, it would have been better to just say, like, anything. Rocher chocolates, you know, hazelnut chocolates. You could have changed the language in there to be anything, and it still would have been relatively recognizable as Ferrero Rocher without having any sort of copyright issue. But that was one thing that stood out to me. And again, that's relatively minimal, but it did make things a little interesting.
Yeah, and it actually says Magic Ferrero rather than the opposite. So it definitely doesn't even look kind of believable. But that's where the other box, I think, comes in to play, where it looks more of like kind of just like a chocolate gift box. And I think that pot is great, you know. Other than that, super awesome, super easy.
One of the really cool things about this too, like we kind of mentioned earlier, is it's very, very beginner friendly, but it's also very professional friendly. If you're looking for something a little bit more lighthearted and out of the box, no pun intended, the cool thing about it is it's really perfect for close-up scenarios. You could use it in Zoom Magic. You could do it at kids' parties or parlor or stage magic. The interesting thing about it, though, too, is you really want to make sure that you're not carrying around this giant box with you everywhere. So while it may be feasible for street magic, it's probably not realistic unless you have, like, a backpack of props with you. Like, I think when you're really trying to do street magic more so, you want to be as light and airy as possible. And this is a full-size box of chocolates, so it's something you need to be cognizant of unless you're literally walking around with nothing but this box of chocolates. With that in mind, too, there are so many ways you can approach this, and one of the great things about the way George approached this himself was he talked about kind of the bare bones routine and then variations on that you could really make this a little more exciting, or make it kind of a replenishing box of chocolates, or an empty to full box of chocolates, or all these different cool little things you could do with it. You could even potentially turn it into something else if you really wanted to. You could do, you know, Ferrero Rocher to bonbons, or Ferrero Rocher to Jolly Ranchers, or whatever you want to do to kind of add a little bit of like weird fun with it, which would be really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's endless. Hell, you can put carrots in there if you want.
Sure, why not? That might be a little weird, but the other
chocolate-covered strawberries.
The other thing I will say too, and be cognizant of this, is if you are going to go out and perform with this and you do have chocolates in the box, don't leave it in a hot area. They will melt, and that will suck to clean up. There's also a possibility, if you really want, to replace the chocolates with something non-perishable like sponge ball or anything else that's about the same size that you could rewrap with the chocolate wrapper as well from Ferrero Rocher's or Bonbon, whichever box you decide to get.
Yep.
Well, thanks everyone for checking out this episode of Reviewed. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out Bonbon Box from George Iglesias and Twister Magic at your favorite Murphy's Magic retailer.
Bye.